Oh, hello everybody. This will be an interesting stream, and it's going to probably miff a couple of you individuals out there. But I'm getting really, really tired of having to cover the same old stuff day in and day out and get confronted with the same irrational roadblocks when trying to do some good. As many of you know, I started the BSCM Ride for Change charity benefit bike tour intended to support charities that target the issues of men's mental health and suicide prevention. This is old news. What I'm covering today is much more, well, current. I know that a lot of you don't like my streams. I know that they are long, very long, to the point where you don't feel like anything is going to be accomplished and you're not going to learn anything, at least nothing worth that amount of your time. So I will keep this short as I can. Folks, I have one piece of advice for any of you. Whenever you come across someone online who, without speaking to you, without knowing anything about any movement, I don't care what movement, what group, whenever somebody speaks from a position of ignorance, and that's not to be an insult, simply lacking information is being ignorant of an issue. Whenever you come across somebody speaking from a position of ignorance, and in that speech, claiming negative things about another group of people, don't care who the group is. When somebody is speaking from a position of ignorance and using that position to try and demonize or discredit someone else, or is generally acting in poor faith, I give you this advice. Offer to them the most reasonable, the most mild-mannered, the most sensible face that you can. Offer them that which they are the least likely to anticipate, given their obvious predisposition against whatever the particular group may be. I encountered an individual today, goes by the name Mike Riverso. I shouldn't say goes by, I do believe this to be him. Now, Mike posted a tweet, and I'm honestly not sure where I saw it. For some reason, it just seems to... I found it online, and this is only a few minutes ago, but I can't really figure out where it's at. But his tweet's got 46 likes and 14 retweets, which would be a stunning day for me. Re-indeed, Giga. Re-indeed. So let's start the story off by taking a quick peek at the source material, shall we? This here, folks, is the tweet that Mike Riverso posted. And again, for any of you who may come after me about this being a form of doxing or some other nefarious activity, I would point out to you that everything here is not only publicly posted by Mike, but is also shared around by him and promoted because, of course, this is what he does. And you'll see in a minute. Mike says, don't engage the MRAs. Don't engage the MRAs. Don't engage the MRAs. As many of you will know, this was very, very likely to draw my attention. Mike couldn't have known this, and of course I replied, Mike, what have I ever done to you? I'm organizing a mental health and suicide prevention bike tour as a charity benefit. Check out the @BSCM Ride for Change if you'd like info, but I don't see what wanting to address the overwhelming male suicide, I have the other tweets there, it was the overwhelming suicide rates has to do with making me unworthy of dialogue. And well, he didn't seem too keen on that. And so I switched my profile back. I was having a bit of shit posting fun with all the hashtag free Kekistan stuff, and it's all a good laugh until you need to get serious and talk to somebody else. Of course, the MLG glasses aren't exactly the most serious. But I just said, and I tried to be as polite as possible to my fellow men's rights activists. I think it would be appropriate to extend polite and welcoming discussion invites to Mike Riverso. Hashtag MRM. Mike seems to have a particularly negative view of MRAs, and I don't claim to know what has motivated this view. But I do think that Mike and the MRM could both benefit from some honest, open, polite dialogue. Maybe address some concerns, answer some questions, and, in general, come to a better understanding of one another. Mike, I'd welcome you to talk anytime. This was his response, which I'm sure very few of you are surprised by. Now, myself, I take the view that until someone takes this step, they are simply acting out of nothing but ignorance, and that if offered a polite invitation to discuss the issue that they seem to be less learned than they ought to be on, they would take it up, because these are the values they tend to pride themselves on or claim to, which is, educating others, educating yourself, these sorts of things. I'm going to adjust my chat slightly here. I want you folks to be able to see what's going on here. So I extended this olive branch of sorts to Mike, thinking that, hey, Hanlon's razor. Never presume malice when thoughtlessness or ignorance, I suppose, will do. Now, going from there, he's obviously blocked me. But not only did he block me, despite this being my attempt to very politely address my concerns about his statement, but he did go on to call for a mass flagging of my account. Mike Riverso. Oh great, I'm about to be piled on by some MRAs on Twitter. Anyone care to report an account for me? To which this @Robsonian replied, gladly. Gladly. This doesn't surprise me anymore, but it does disappoint me. It disappoints me that people are so quick to hear one or two buzzwords, see absolutely no substance, and just pile on. It's the hypocrisy in this is glaring. Absolutely blatant, and I do find that a little bit insulting. I could understand just blocking me and moving on with his day, but no. He, after trying to take the moral high ground, presumptuously, decided to then stoop himself to my level of, I don't know, wanting to have a reasonable bit of discourse, which is all I had asked for, all I had advocated for. But no, his response was to try and get me mass reported. To which I will bring up the archive here. Yes, it was to the guy replying to that tweet. I was the only person at the time who had replied. @Robsonian, the guy replying to this tweet, and brought it back to that one, and of course I would be there. I do not protect my tweets. However, Mike does. Because, I don't know, it's Mike's choice. If I had to presume, it would be because he doesn't want to be called out for the blatant hypocrisy on display here. So with that being said, I think it's interesting that we take a look at some of Mike's own statements about himself, just to verify where exactly this is all coming from. Because, of course, Mike is a person who's geeking out about tech, feminism, social media, gaming, sci-fi, and improv. Not the first improv or stand-up comedian I've gotten this kind of feedback from. We'll call it that. And then he says, a force for good on the internet. Now, I find that particularly interesting especially when paired with this next bit. A tech geek who can talk to anyone with a well-rounded background in, amongst other things, communications. Doesn't seem like he's apt with the whole, up to date, I should say, with the whole communicating thing. Again, a force for good on the internet, working to make the world a better place through social media. A firm believer in the power of telling stories and sharing ideas. Now, I don't know what exactly Mike defines as a better future. But what I do know is that when I extended an invitation to Mike to speak about the staggering rates of male suicide and how they're not being addressed, and an opportunity to have a discussion about a charity benefit to try and improve the lives of people around the globe, that I was blocked, and he advocated for my mass reporting, mass false flagging of my account on Twitter. Folks, I am trying to effect some positive change. I can't do this if my Twitter account keeps getting shut down by these kind of tactics, nor can any of us. So, I will take a step here and say this. I have not broken any of Twitter's terms of service in anything I've done here. However, in his attempts to have me mass false flagged for doing nothing but publishing perfectly polite correspondence to him, Mike Riverso has. Now, me? I'm partial to holding people accountable to the standards that they set for others. What's good for the goose has to be good for the gander. If you would like, I am offering you two paths of discourse here, two paths of action. The first, if you would like to have a polite, reasonable, and respectful bit of dialogue with Mike, or attempt to, that is your choice. I would encourage it, especially from somebody who has a more professional Twitter profile set up than I do. I do understand that my setup of my profile was likely a large part in why he responded the way he did. I will take that one, mea culpa. However, for him to turn around and attack my Twitter profile and call for my mass flagging, a baseless mass flagging, that is against the Twitter rules in terms of service and use and all that good jazz, the end user license agreement, if you will. On that note, you may find it interesting to know that you can report Mike Riverso for this infraction. Possibly even by citing his own tweets, because not only did he advocate for a false flagging of my account, but he also advocated for the dogpiling of my account to bring people in a swarm to report me wrongfully. Now, even if he had just abused the system on his own, he would be in violation of it, having reported me unjustly. But bringing more people in and asking those to do his bidding on this, or asking if anyone would just be hankering to report an account today, that there is a second breach of the Twitter terms of service. Personally, I think Mike could do to learn a lesson here, whether it be that MRAs are indeed willing to have a discussion with him, as I still am. I would make time to chat with Mike at any time, provided I didn't have a class or some demanding prior engagement. But I also think that people need to be held to a standard, especially their own standards. So I say to everyone, take your pick. I would encourage polite discourse. I don't think removing people from the discussion is a productive bit of action. But it seems that Mike is intent to remove himself. So, with that said, folks, I'd like to wish you all a good evening, and ask yourself why it is that Mike is still looking for a career that will allow him to have a positive effect on the world, not currently in one. And why, for some reason, despite his claims to want to be a force for good on the internet, he shuts down voices who want to talk about the epidemic of male suicide and other demonstrably valid human rights issues. Thank you, everyone, and have a good night.